All right, let's dive right in. We're going to turn back the clock to 2002 to unpack a massive medical panic that completely reshaped women's health and got the science, tragically, fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so picture this. It's July 2002, and this huge study, the Women's Health Initiative, or WHI, drops an absolute bombshell at a press conference. The headline, Hormone Replacement Therapy Increased the Risk of Breast Cancer, Heart Attacks, and Strokes. I mean, overnight, a treatment that millions of women were using was suddenly branded as toxic. Prescriptions just plummeted. And this fear, it went absolutely global.
But here's the thing. That message, the one that has dominated medicine for pretty much 20 years now, was a complete distortion of the facts. The entire panic was built on a massive misinterpretation of the study's very own data. So you know what? Let's do what the headlines failed to do back then and actually look at the data. What did the WHI study really find? Well, the results aren't just a little different. In some cases, they are literally the opposite of what we were all told.
Now, this is the crucial part, so pay close attention. The WHI wasn't just one single study. It actually had two totally different arms. One group of women, the ones who still had a uterus, got a combination of estrogen and a synthetic progestin. But the second group, women who'd had a hysterectomy, they got estrogen all by itself. Two different treatments, right? And you guessed it, two very, very different outcomes.
So that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? What happened to the women who only took estrogen? This is the part of the story that the public pretty much never heard.
Get ready for this. Far from causing cancer, taking estrogen alone was linked to a 23% lower risk of developing breast cancer compared to the women taking a placebo. Yeah, you heard me correctly, a significant reduction in risk. And it gets even more stunning than that. It didn't just lower the chances of getting breast cancer in the first place. For the women who did get it, taking estrogen was linked to a 40% drop in the risk of dying from it. This wasn't some tiny marginal effect. This was a powerful, genuinely life-saving one.
So what about that other group, the one that got both hormones? Well, even there, the danger was massively overblown. Yeah, there was a very small bump in diagnoses, but the numbers were kind of shaky statistically. And here's the most important part. Across the entire study, both groups combined, there was absolutely zero increase in deaths from breast cancer. None.
But wait, there was another huge flaw in how this whole thing was interpreted. The problem wasn't just how they read the numbers. It was the actual drugs they were using in the first place.
See, the WHI used these really old-school drugs. Estrogen made from horse urine and a synthetic progestin called MPA. Modern therapy, it's a completely different game. Today, we use bioidentical estradiol and micronized progesterone, which are molecularly identical to the hormones our own bodies produce. And that word, bioidentical, it's everything. It means these hormones fit our body's receptors perfectly, like a key designed for a specific lock. And that leads to a much, much better safety profile. Comparing the WHI drugs to modern therapy is like comparing a Model T to a Tesla. They're not even in the same category.
You know, this whole misunderstanding wasn't just some mistake in a medical journal. It had devastating, real-world consequences. The fear that came out of that WHI report led millions of women to stop a therapy that was actually protecting their health, and the cost has been just immense.
I mean, this next number is it's tough to even wrap your head around. A Yale University analysis estimated that in the decade after the WHI announcement, somewhere between 40,000 and 50,000 women in the U.S. died prematurely. Why? Specifically because they were scared away from taking the estrogen therapy they needed.
Just think about the cruel, tragic irony here for a second. A media campaign designed to protect women from breast cancer ended up scaring them away from a therapy that, as the study's own data showed, actually reduces the risk of that very same disease. The scale of the harm is almost incalculable. So, after 2 decades of fear and just plain wrong information, it is way past time to correct the record, loudly, unequivocally. Let's talk about what hormone therapy really is and what it actually does for a woman's health. First things first, we have to completely change how we think about this. Estrogen therapy isn't just about getting rid of hot flashes. It is fundamental, preventative medicine. Estrogen is like the master conductor of the orchestra in your body, and restoring it helps prevent a whole range of diseases that come with aging.
I'm talking about everything from protecting your bones from fractures, keeping your heart healthy, to even enhancing your mood and your cognitive function. It boosts metabolism, and get this, When you start it around the time of menopause, it has been shown to lower your risk of dying from any cause.
And yet, look at the damage that HI scare is still doing. Today, while about 80% of women suffer from significant menopausal symptoms, only about 10% are actually getting therapy. That is a massive and frankly unnecessary gap between suffering and treatment.
Okay, so let's just boil this all down and make it super simple. Here's the truth in 3 steps. Number 1, hormone therapy is safe for the vast majority of women when you start it at the right time. Number 2, estrogen by itself is protective. It prevents breast cancer and it saves lives. And number 3, the modern bioidentical hormones we use today are a world away from the outdated drugs the WHI studied.
Look, at the end of the day, this isn't just about correcting some 2-decade-old scientific error. This is about empowering an entire generation of women with the correct information they need to protect their long-term health. It's about reversing a public health tragedy because women's lives absolutely depend on us getting this right.